What's up, everybody? It's your boy KG. We got episode 2 of Free Knowledge. I just want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for taking the time to check out my podcast. And if you didn't, definitely go back to episode 1. Check that one out. We had a lot of great information in there. Just talking about the introduction of myself, the podcast, how I came about starting the podcast, and the different things and topics that I'm going to be touching on. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely go back to the first episode just to get caught up to speed. And on this week's episode, we're going to talk about two main topics. The first one is going to be my journey of writing the book. And again, that book is Little Brother Spiritual Motivation for Christians. It's already available on Amazon. It's been out for a week now. It's been awesome. I've been getting great reviews on Amazon, great reviews from family, friends, and even people I don't know that I haven't talked to in 20, 30 years giving me a call, just telling me how proud they are of the book and how it encouraged them and motivated them. So currently, especially with this place that we're in right now, the timing of the book, God just had, it's a divine timing. So I encourage you to go check it out. Go on Amazon, read the description of the book, and I guarantee that if you purchase it, you will not be dissatisfied at all. So check it out. Again, that's Little Brother Spiritual Motivation for Christians by myself, Courtney Goff, KOURTNEY GOFF, as in Frank. So we're going to kick things off. We're going to, like I said, talk about the journey of the book. And I started this journey probably about a year and a half ago. God was definitely coming to me, talking to me, saying all these different things about writing the book. And I just kept brushing it off, for definitely about a good 3 to 4 months. I just kept brushing it off like, yeah, God, you're not talking to me about that. I'm just, hearing that. And, I just kept brushing it off. And it's so funny because God has a huge sense of humor, man. He just will continue to keep, telling you exactly what he's been telling you and make sure and have that confirmation. I'm talking to you and I want you to do this. And it's up to us as his children to be obedient to him. And like I said in the beginning, just being transparent. That's what we do on this podcast. Be completely transparent, not hiding anything. I was ignoring it. He was telling me to write a book, and I was ignoring it. And I kept saying, yeah, he's not talking to me. He's not talking to me. And I would share it with my wife, and she would say, just pray about it. And I said, okay, I'll pray about it. But then I would just kind of get out of sight, out of mind. And that kind of goes to my next point of making sure that when God speaks to us that we have to write it down. And when I was in church, me and my wife, and we were living in Murfreesboro, Tennessee at the time. And we were going to First Baptist. Pastor there is James McCarroll, great friend of mine, mentor. He was preaching on the premise of, Habakkuk 2:2 about writing things down, making it plain so you could see it, so you could run with it and, get that information and not forget it. So I was like, okay, I'm liking this. And then he says, God's been telling you to write that book and you haven't been writing it. So I look over to my wife, I tap her leg. I'm like, man, he's talking to me. So she look at me, we start laughing and, we leave church. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to be obedient to God. I was like, when next time he tells me something about this book, I'm going to write it down. And that's what I said. And literally from that point, I want to say it might have been a week or two after I was driving to work, my same routine as I normally do. I'm driving through, I get caught at this red light. I always get caught at this same red light every morning. And when I'm at the light, and it's so early in the morning, it's like 7 in the morning, so just like fog. Not too many people out there. I'm at a light, no cars around. And God's like, little brother. And I'm like, little brother? I'm like, what is that, God? Like, what are you telling me? Yeah, I know I'm a little brother. I have 2 older brothers. I'm the youngest. Okay, give me more. You know how you've been in that place where you're like, God, what else are you trying to tell me? I can't put the pieces to this puzzle together. And so I said, you know what? I'm gonna write it down. And I was looking in the car and I was like, oh, I don't even have anything to write this down with. So I was like, I don't even keep pens in my car. I'm already thinking negative. I'm thinking of ways to not write this down and be obedient. And so I said, you know what? Let me just check in the middle console of my car and let's see what we got. So I look in, I moved some papers around. I had a pen in there. Scribbled a pen, no ink came out. Then finally I scribbled it again. Ink came out. I wrote down little brother. I said, okay, I'm going to write this down. God, whatever it is that you tell me to do, I'm going to do it. So now I continue that process every time God would come to me and say, okay, he would just tell me stuff like he would say, literally like he would give me something to write about. Like the first chapter is on purpose, and he would give me like the order that you guys see in the book, 1 through 17 chapters, is the exact order that God gave it to me. I didn't want to change anything that he gave to me because I knew that I was only just his tool that he used to get this information out there. The Holy Spirit spoke to me of what to write. And that's what I want to make sure that everybody knows, that, you know, on this journey, like I literally would go and hear from God, and then I would go into my own space and just pray about it and say, God, you're taking me on a foreign area. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to make a fool of myself. Please show me what you want me to do. And like literally I would have that prayer so many times, and God would just speak to me. He would literally just speak to me and show me exactly what he wanted me to do. So, and that's how I end up coming to this point where, you know, the book is complete and it's on Amazon for people to purchase, and I'm receiving feedback from people and they're like, man, this book is awesome and blah blah blah. And I'm like, wow, like I'm in awe, because I'm like, I know the journey. I know when he first told me this and I pushed it off for so long, and then finally to look up now that it's complete, it's like there's no words to describe that. So I'm just so thankful. So I just tell you that journey and that testimony to encourage you, because I know that we all go through that. Like we all go through those moments where God is telling us to do something, but we're trying to figure out how to do it. Like how do I do this? How do I do that? But it's like I have to stop myself. And one thing that helped me was just taking the time to say, okay, let me write this down. I'm going to pray over it. And I'm not going to worry about the next step. I'm going to focus on what God gave me and focus on this current moment. And as I did that, that removed the stress and the worry off of me. And I just put it on God. I'm like, God, like whatever it is that you want me to do, you're going to do it, because I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it, and I trust you. And that's where God wants us to be, in that place on our journey of whatever it may be. It might be starting your own business, you know, just crossing over into a new career path. Whatever it may be, that's where we have to trust God. And when God sees that we trust him, then that's when he comes in like, oh, okay, you trust me? Okay, yeah, I got you, boy. I got you. I got you, my daughter. Like, I got you. Don't worry about it. I got you. I'm your boy. I got you. So that's that relationship that God wants. He wants us to say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna jump out there. You know, like just jump out there. Put yourself out there. Take that leap of faith, because at the end of the day, we know that God has got us all the way through 1,000%. Even when we're wrong, he still got us. So imagine if we're doing what he tells us to do. It's automatic. It's automatic love. Like, and it's so crazy because, as like I said, once I got to the end of writing the book, and God led me to that point, like I prayed over the book and I was like, God, you know, let your blood be over this entire book. You know, let it be on every word, every page, every prayer that's in this book. So when they read it, if they just open it, it's like, boom. That's your opportunity, God. That's the opportunity that you wanted, was to every person that purchased this book, for them to, you know, edify their souls, strengthen their relationship with God, or even start a brand new relationship with God. Those were my prayers, like, and to see it manifest into this current day, it's a wonderful thing. So start your journey, whatever your journey may be. You might have not started your journey. You might have been where I was, you know, a year ago, where I was just ignoring it, or you might be in a place where you started it and then you fell back off of it. You know, either way, wherever you are, keep going. Go to God and say, God, talk to me. Tell me what you want me to do. And as he speaks to you, write it down. I promise you that will help you out so much. And like I said, reference Habakkuk 2:2. Read the full chapter for context, but read it and let that, you know, motivate you. And the next thing that I want to get on to is how I wrote my first book. A lot of people say, like, okay, like, you know, how did you write your book? Like, what did you do? And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, like, it was a difficult process, because it was something brand new for me. I had to do a lot of research, and now that I know the information, like, it's gonna be so much easier for me to do the second series of Little Brother. It's gonna be so easy for me to say, okay, once I'm done, instead of it taking 3-4 months for me to publish it, it'll be up in a week, because I went through that experience. So now I have that knowledge. And going back to the name of the show, is free knowledge. I'm here to give you guys free knowledge. So how I did it was, first thing first was, I would literally write first, because the biggest thing that people do is they try to figure out the next step before the most important ingredient is done. You have to write the book. Like, you have to write the book. So once I wrote the book, I had the manuscript done of everything that I wanted to put into it. My next step was then formatting. Formatting is something that was hard for me. Might not be hard for you, but it was different. It wasn't like formatting like your paper that you did in college. Like for me, I have my master's degree, so I was like, okay, I can figure this out. This won't be anything, and I couldn't. I ended up actually partnering with my wife, and my wife helped me out with some of the formatting, and we worked together as a team to put this book out there for you guys to enjoy. So like I said, first thing, creating the content completely. And once God says, hey, I'm done, then you stop and then you format. Once you format the book, when you're doing that process, you can go right on Amazon. And that's the beautiful thing about it. There's so many resources out there. Like I would just go on YouTube and say, how do I format my book? And you would be surprised, people doing podcasts just like myself, you will see that information right in there. So that's another thing, is just use your resources. Google, YouTube, family, friends. If you know anybody, a pastor that wrote a book, and I reached out to pastors like, hey, you wrote your book, can I just pick your brain for 10, 15 minutes to get your knowledge? And you'll be surprised, people would love to talk to you guys about it. And I say the same for me. So if there's anything that I can help you guys out with, again, reach out to me on my different social media platforms, and I'm here to support you guys on your journey and see you all the way through it. And I truly mean that. So definitely reach out. And so after the formatting, like I said, you can go right on Amazon. Amazon has a format for your book. So literally you'll have like chapter 1 and it'll say chapter 1 example. Then it'll have like a full body of where you would write your stories for each chapter. It'll just say chapter 1 example, and it's like all the way that's written out redundant for a whole 2-3 pages. Then the next chapter starts, says chapter 2 example, then does the same thing in the body. So all you're doing, because again, I had to figure this out at the end. If I'd have knew it from the beginning, I would just pull the formatting doc from Amazon and then use that. And again, like I said, you have to go to Amazon KDP. Once you go to Amazon KDP, then from that point, you can just search and look at the different things on there and find that information. So like I said, create the content, format. Then after you format the book, the next thing that I did was went through and reviewed the book. I went through and read every page of my book. I probably read my book, I can't even tell you the amount of times I read it. Like I read to the point where I was memorizing the words and I didn't even have to read it. And because I wanted to make sure, one, that my quality was professional. I didn't want somebody to go through my book and on the first page or the first chapter, like, wow, I see a typo. Like, come on, like it's not professional. So I wanted to make sure that what I was doing, because again, I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for God. So I want to make sure I give him the best quality. I want to put him out there in the best light, So that's what I did. I went through and I read the book so many different times. And so after that, proofreading the book, the next thing that I did was I found an editor. And this is so important because a lot of people don't go through and find an editor, which that's perfectly fine if you don't. And I actually kind of went back and forth, and I was like, oh, I don't want to spend the money on an editor. But again, I had to go back to it. It's not my glory. This is for God. So if I'm going to do it for God, I'm going to make sure I do everything right. And that's kind of like, if I look at, you do something for somebody, you want to do it to your best ability. And if I'm doing it for God, that's above everybody. So I'm going to make sure, I don't care how much money it is, I'm going to make sure it's right. But also have that discernment and that understanding to say, okay, what is the best bang for my buck? And so I did that. I found an editor. And once I found an editor, we went through that process, negotiated on the contract. And once we did that, then it was like, okay, what is the time frame that you'll get it back to me? And then we mapped that out. And then once she gives it back to me, we kind of go back and forth, because as she goes through and she went through and made some edits, then I have to take it back. I have to read the edits and make sure it's to my liking. Then if it's something that I don't like, I send it back to her. We kind of do that back and forth to us at a point where I'm like, hey, I feel great about the content. Thank you for your services. Complete the payment. And you normally do the payment like half up front, half at the end. And like I said, that's all contractual. So make sure you always keep your contract information. And then the next thing that I did was finding the cover. So you find like a graphic designer and you say, okay, what is my idea that I want to, put into this book cover, because you want somebody to see, if they see this book on Amazon or see it in the bookstore, you want to pull that person's eye to it. You want to say, oh wow, like, what is that? That's a nice, book cover. I want to check that out. So that's what I did. I was thinking through on a different process, and one of the great ways on either editing or formatting or finding your book cover is Fiverr, and that's Fiverr, Fiverr.com. You can actually do it through an app too as well on your phone. And if you go in there, you can find all these different people, and they're all like freelancers, and they have their ratings next to them like Amazon. So you could pick a person that, edited and formatted a New York best time seller, or you could pick a person that's just a regular person, just like, me and you, that, they just do this for a hobby, and you can say, okay, they might charge you $35, $40 to do these different things, but that's a great resource, Fiverr.com, or the Fiverr, the app. And again, that's Fiverr. So now if you go through those steps, you have your content, you did your formatting, you did your editing, you did your book cover. Now we have to go back to the last step, which is going to be reviewing your content again. And I know it sounds redundant, and I heard people go through and talk about this on their YouTube channels, and I was like, okay, y'all don't have to do that much reading, but you do. Even when I went through and did all of that stuff, and I went through the last time, I found typos again, and I was like, wow, thank you, God. I'm glad that I took the time and not be lazy and actually read what it is that's in there. And I caught a few different typos that I was able to correct before publishing the final copy. And then while you're in that stage, I encourage this from a lot of to a lot of you guys when you're doing your book, is find some advanced readers. Maybe you might find a list of 3 to 5, or maybe 10 to 12. I end up doing like 10 to 12 people, because what I've learned is that a lot of people will say they'll do something, but they won't necessarily do it. And that's okay, because we all have a lot of different stuff going on. So that's why I picked more people, because I'd rather pick a lot of people and maybe get 3 or 4 back, or maybe 1 or 2 back, versus me picking 2 or 3 people, and then now they never really read the book. And then now I don't really have an outside, unbiased opinion of what the book, like what their thoughts are of the book. And when you're selecting these advanced readers, pick people that are not your family and friends. I picked people, that I knew from LinkedIn, or I would pick random people. Like if I seen that you were a positive person on social media, or if I seen that you were a book blogger, I would pick those people. I would reach out to them and say, hey, my name's Courtney Goff. I just want to reach out to see if you can help me out. I have a book that I'm about to publish, and I wanted to get people's unbiased opinion. And that's what I did, because what you'll see with that is that if you pick people that don't think like you, are different from you, you'll get a perspective of things that you can catch before you publish the final copy of the book. Praying about every decision that you make, every thought that you have, because he'll lead you. And that's what he did for me. Like literally, it was times when I would go in there and I would sit in the front of my desk in the office, and I would say, 2 hours, I'm like, wow, I only wrote like 3 to 5 sentences. Like, this is crazy. And I would get a little discouraged, but then I would have to, remember that it's no time limit on this. There's no time. You don't have to have your book done in a year. That was just how God made it work for me. So I thank him for that, but your journey might be different than mine. You might take 2 months. You might take 6. You might take 2 years. You might take a year and a half. Whatever it may be, don't rush your timing, which is very important. So those are just the journey of me writing the book and how I wrote my first book. I hope that that's very helpful for you guys. Now we're at one of the fan favorite situations that we have, is the 3 takeaways. So the first takeaway that I want to give you guys today is listen to God's voice. As I told you guys in this episode too, I ignored God's voice for a while, and I thought in my mind, like, wow, what if I would have not ignored him those first 3-4 months? Like, I would have probably had, the book out before then. But again, don't think in that way, because it all happens when God wants it to happen. But what I am saying is that if you're in a place where God is telling you to do something, go ahead and do it. Just be obedient, because with obedience comes success. And not success of the world, but it's success from God. And when you get success from God, it comes in abundance. It comes in moments of awe where you're like, wow, like, this is God. And it's like, this is no one else but God, because literally I know I couldn't have done this by myself. second takeaway that we have is don't rush. It's on God's time. And when I was writing my notes down, I was thinking about don't rush. I was thinking about that don't rush challenge, and I started singing it in my head. But maybe you guys did too, and if you did, like, comment that down below. But definitely don't rush, because I found myself in a place when I was writing a book. Me and my wife, we have a 7-month-old daughter, and when my wife was first, when we found out she was pregnant, I said, "Oh man," I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna write this book before, our daughter is born." And I had all these dates, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have this done by this time, this by this by this," and God had a whole different plan for me. And the timing of God is so perfect, because if I would have wanted my book to come out the time I wanted to, it would have came out like, one, it would have came out in October, when around the time my daughter was born, October, November, but it didn't. And then the next thing, I was like, okay, my daughter's here, I'm gonna get it out by my birthday, March. And so that was my next thing, and I was like, then God said, nope, that's not it. And as we all know, COVID hit, and so now we're all in a place where we're all in our house. We're all in our house with nothing to do, and now God's like, oh, now your book is ready. Like, that's the perfect time. That's divine time. That's God's timing. Where if I'd have published my book in November, October, people might have been doing their own thing. They might not even had time to even look at my book. But now, because it's open time and people need spiritual motivation, they're like, man, let me check this book out. Let me see what KG really talking about. Let me see if he could really motivate me. And that's the opportunity that God wanted. He wanted to put everybody in an isolated space where they could hear it, where they could receive it. Because a lot of times we get so busy and consuming our life that we don't even take time to just say, what's up, God? How you doing today? How's your day going? And we don't even take that time. So it's like God was like, okay, I'm going to sit everybody down. And that's what he did. So I say that to say, don't rush. It's on God's timing. You ask God what he wants you to do, and you move on his time accordingly. So I hope that didn't go over anybody's head. And if that's you, don't rush. Take your time. You on God's time, and his time is not the same as our time. Last thing, unqualified, he makes qualified. And when I wrote this, I was writing these notes down. I'm like, wow. Like, because I know for a fact, as I told you guys, I'm not an avid reader. But God has moved me to a place where I'm starting to read more and more and more, and I'm going to become an avid reader, and I'm speaking that over my life. But like I said, in the beginning when I started this journey, I wasn't a person that read a book from cover to cover. It took me during this process to actually pick up a book and read it from cover to cover to truly get an understanding of why it's great to read books. Like, why it's like, oh, wow, I actually like books. Like, maybe if I pick topics that I really like, or maybe an area that I'm struggling in, that will help me, encourage me to read more and more. So a lot of times we look at situations and we say, hey, I can't do that. Like, I don't know how to write a book. Like, I never read a book. But that's the thing about it. That's when God picks you. Like, you're like, nobody in your family started their own business, but he told you to do it. Why? Because it looks like you can't. Because from our position of our vision point, we're like, we can't do it. I'm not certified. I don't have a degree in that. I don't have certifications in that field. But at the end of the day, that's what God does, because he wants to pick the person that's unqualified to make them qualified, to give him all the glory. Because everybody around us, even if they don't know that we can't do it, we know that we couldn't do it, did it by ourselves. So when it comes times like this, when you're on your platform that God has given you, you're able to go to people and say, man, the glory is not mine, it's all God's. Because I know that I know that for a fact that I didn't have any idea of how to write a book. But yet I'm getting reviews from people I don't know. I'm getting people who purchased the book in UK that I don't know. I don't know anybody in UK. I've never been in UK. But yet people are buying it there. Why? It's not because of me. It's because I was obedient to God, and I did what he told me to do, and I'm giving him the glory because I know it's him. So I encourage you with those 3 takeaways again today is to listen to God's voice. Secondly, don't rush. It's God's timing. And lastly, he used the unqualified to make qualified. So at the end of the day, we're all unqualified for a lot of things that God puts us in beautiful places to do great things. And we got to make sure that we give him the glory. So that's episode 2 of Free Knowledge. I hope that you guys are enjoying this journey with me. Episode 2 is in the books. Thank you guys for subscribing, liking, commenting. Like I said, check me out on all my platforms, man. Instagram, Courtney Golf Official, as well as Facebook, it's Spiritual Motivation 365. Talk to me. Tell me what your guys' thoughts are, and if you got different topics that you guys want to talk about in our next episode, definitely let me know. I love you guys. Have a great day. God bless you. Love is love. Peace out. Love y'all.